Hi everyone, welcome to the presentation by Bima and Lili. Our research topic is our middle school students' conceptions of mean and median. We would like to start with some background information. The guidelines for assessment and instruction in statistics education proposed statistical literacy is the ultimate goal of statistics education. Newton et al. Discussed statistical reasoning and statistical process are two main aspects of statistical literacy. These are the kind of broad goals of statistics education. So to focus on middle school statistics education, Common Core Study Standard for Mathematics recommended that students start developing their understanding of statistical literacy at grade 6. They also mentioned that by the end of grade 6, most of the students they said like all students should achieve or should conceptualize central tendency, mean, median and mode. But there are some empirical studies which show all the students do not always conceptualize a mean and median by the end of even 8th grade. For example, Mokros and Russell's studies found that most of the 8th grader interpreted means as midpoint, and some of them recognize mean as mode. But there are like very few students who conceptualize mean as a balance point. There is another study that showed middle school students struggle to appropriately select and use different statistical measures while selecting statistical problems. So based on those recommendations and standards and these empirical studies, we were curious to know curious to find how does a middle school student solve and interpret mean and median problems. So aligning with the concept of statistical literacy, we investigated how does a middle school student demonstrate his conceptions of mean and median, and how does he show his procedural knowledge of mean and median. So basically we investigated both procedural knowledge and conceptual understanding demonstrated by a middle school student. So we selected a 14-year old 8th grade student, and we just named him as Smith throughout our paper. And we interviewed him, and we also asked him to solve tasks. We selected tasks from the National Assessment of Education Progress website. Some of them were, we selected one easy task, one moderate tasks, and one hard task, because we wanted to have variety in terms of their difficulty level. And also some of them, like one of them, it like intended to measure procedural knowledge, while other two intended to measure students' conceptual understanding, because as I mentioned, we are interested to assess both procedural knowledge and conceptual understanding. So to report Smith's procedural knowledge of mean and median, he really had good procedural knowledge, I have to say, because he solved all the tasks successfully within reasonable amount of time. He just took like less than 2 minutes for each problem to solve them. And one of the interesting thing is he did not write any formal symbols or any formal formula while solving tasks. However, when we asked him how did he solve this first task, in the first task he had to find the total number of tests based on the number of tests based on total points and the average score or average test score. So when we asked him how did he find that, he mentioned that he divided the total points by average. So it is the correct understanding of formula. Before um, explaining his conceptual understanding, I want to mention the other procedural other aspect of procedural knowledge. While solving third problem, like in this problem he had to find median score of the group of to the nearest whole number. So what he did was he just converted this data set into individual data set. For example, he wrote 9 and 80, 80, 80, 70 4 times, and he circled the mid value there. So it's really interesting to know why did not he use formula, because I have seen like usually students use formula to find median of this kind of data value. But anyway, he correctly found the median. So his conceptual understanding, there are few aspects. First one is he interpret mean and median as positional average. uh, for example, he said mean is the exact middle value, and also he said median could be exact middle value, but sometimes it might not be exact middle value. And the other good thing are really strong conceptions, are really good conceptions that he developed was he identified the appropriate statistical measures and outliers, because he said that if there are really super small or super big numbers, then we should use median to represent them, because mean does not always represent them. And also he said that sometimes we can eliminate those outliers because they are very few and they are not that important. And the other interesting thing is he considered the data size as one of the determining factor for the selection of measure. For example, he said if the data set is very large, then we should use mean. If there are very few data values like 5 or 6, then we should use median. Yeah, it's a kind of, so we report this as his underdeveloped conception, this one, and his interpretation of mean and median as positional value. So we can say underdeveloped or partially developed conception of mean and median. So in discussion section, yeah, he has statistical habits of mind because he considered variability as he considered most of the data values, and it shows that his thinking level falls in level B because level B means the level BA of the framework suggested by the guidelines for assessment and instruction in statistics education. And but we cannot confirm whether he had achieved level C or not, because we did not ask him question about randomness, and we did not ask him question about uh, standard deviation, and also variability. So we cannot confirm this is one of the limitations of this study. Sometimes we felt like he was still operating at level V, because yes, he did not conceptualize mean as a balancing point. So this is the finding that we share with Marcos and Russell studies, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, because in this study also a student could not conceptualize as a mean conceptualize mean as a balancing point. So this finding strengthened the fundamental idea of the developmental framework by Franklin et al. Means the same framework that I am talking about. Um, so they also said that these levels like level A, B, and C do not necessarily uh, correspond with their age level or grade level. So Smith, like sometimes like we felt like he was operating at level B, sometimes at level A. So yeah, these grades really do not these levels really do not correspond with their grade level. So we conclude that middle school students do not always fully develop their conceptions of central tendency, and also, yeah, as we mentioned, like we just interviewed one student, and one student, so we suggest that it would be helpful to conduct a longitudinal study and a study with a large sample size to examine why and how a child achieves the statistical literacy and how children achieve various phases of developmental framework suggested by Gaze report. So yeah, it would be interesting to have like large sample size actually.